are Sint Maarten. You are Sint Maarten.
The URSM, the Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement, being a political movement, will be hosting a weekly radio program called You Are Sint Maarten, every Wednesday from 6 to 7 p.m. on the Radio Mix 94.7 FM. I myself, Dr. Messalina, the political leader of URSM, will be hosting this radio program in which current issues, actualities and general topics will be discussed with the people of Sint Maarten. So join us every Wednesday on Radio Mix 94.7 for our radio show You Are Sint Maarten.
You are Sint Maarten. You are Sint Maarten.
Dear people of Sint Maarten, good evening. Welcome to your radio program You Are Sint Maarten on Radio Mix 94.7 FM. As you know, we have this radio program every week on the Wednesdays from 6 to 7. As a political party, we find informing the people and staying in contact with the people very important. And hence, actually, that on a weekly basis, we have this radio program called You Are Sint Maarten, using the U from Unified, the R being You Are from Resilient, and Sint Maarten as also in Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement. It sounds good. You are Sint Maarten. Sint Maarten is yours. You are part of Sint Maarten. And on the other side, the political party URSM, the Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement, that will contest the upcoming parliamentary elections for country Sint Maarten. I myself, Dr. Messalina, will be your host in this radio program. As you know, I'm the surgeon serving the people of Sint Maarten since 1999 in the function of a specialist, a medical specialist, being a surgeon, helping the people of Sint Maarten. And since 2021, October 10, 2021, we have founded the political movement URSM because we strongly believe that there is a need for a new political direction and movement for country Sint Maarten. And I strongly believe, as the political leader of the URSM, that the way to go is with the URSM, the Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement. As we said, we're going to contest the upcoming parliamentary elections for country Sint Maarten. And today, coincidentally, we had a release from the Prime Minister with some official dates for the upcoming elections, being the 11th of January 2024 as the official election day and the 22nd of November being nomination day. We have our thoughts about these two dates. We think that especially the 11th of January is on a Thursday. We have another opinion about that, and I still believe we can change that day. But anyway, from the press release that we got, or actually what we encountered on social media, is that the preliminary idea is that we will have an election on the 11th of January 2024. But once more, we have our doubt if that is the right date for this election, but time will tell. But whatever happens, at the end of the day, the URSM, the Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement, is ready to contest the upcoming elections. As you know, the URSM stands for putting the people and the country above self and believes strongly in educating and informing the people, hence that we have this weekly radio program. And we strongly also believe that there should be always a sound balance between economic growth and the welfare society that we live in. We are presenting a weekly program in which current topics, community developments and issues, and general matters concerning the people of Sint Maarten are being discussed. Today we have a great participant in our radio program, and the reason why I invited him today to be with us again once more is because today there was also an article in the Daily Herald in which he officially announces his participation with the URSM contesting the upcoming parliamentary elections for country Sint Maarten. And that is, of course, nobody else than Mr. Michel Somersall, very known person, has been the Deputy Minister Plenipotentiary for Country Sint Maarten, did in the past a great job for our country. And for me, as a leader of the URSM, it's a great honor and a great pleasure to have a knowledgeable, well-educated person as Mr. Michel Somersall with us on the list of the URSM, the Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement. Michel, once more, thank you very much for taking your time out to be with us, and welcome in your radio program, URSM.
All right, thank you, Dr. Marcelina. Thank you for having me. Good evening, radio listeners. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to go over the topics that is really close to us and the issues that it's facing our community today. Today I announced my candidacy, indeed.
Yeah, incredible. I think some people still are very impressed, of course, with this decision. I do not believe, Mr. Somersall, that the people are surprised that you announced your decision to participate in the upcoming parliamentary elections for Country Sint Maarten. And I do not believe that people knowing you, who you are, what type of person you are, what your background education is, that they are surprised that you made a choice to be with the URSM. And I think it's good for you to explain to people of Sint Maarten yourself what actually has been the reason for you to make the choice to contest the upcoming parliamentary election with the Unified Resilient Sint Maarten Movement.
Doc, that's a question I get from several people.
Yes.
Why the URSM? And if I really think back to it, back to the time when I was deputy minister, government fell and everything. They were saying back then that you are the reason why government fell.
Yes, and
right?
Absolutely not the case.
It's not the case. I mean, we sit down and we discuss that.
Of course.
But if I was a different person,
yes,
people would say, well, you're crazy to join the URSM party with Dr. Luc Marcelina.
Yeah.
Because government fell, then I lost my job.
Yes. And still?
And still here we are, but we're here because of your principles.
Yes.
And we discussed it in depth, and you stood up for what was right. Mm-hmm. I share those principles, and that's why I can sit here comfortably and say, this is the right place and this is the right party to run on.
Yep.
Certain things that some people might not know about us, Doc. Both of us have taken an oath.
Yep.
You're a sergeant, and you took an oath to save lives. Mm-hmm. In Army, I'm a medic. I took the same oath to save lives. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter if it was somebody from our troops or somebody got injured who's the enemy. We're still responsible and we have to save that life, even if it's for the enemy. Mm-hmm. We cannot choose who we want to help and who we want to save. And with that, taking that oath from me comes a responsibility and a code of conduct on how we carry ourselves in relation to every other decision that we make in life. Mm-hmm. And in talking with you, it resonated. And we made that click. And that's why with you standing for your principles and what the party stands for me was an easy choice to say that this is where I belong, because we share the same principles, we share the same values, and we're not afraid of making difficult decisions when we have to make them.
To serve the general interest of the people.
Yes.
And you know, Michel, it's very good that you started in your introduction saying something about actually the perception that they wanted to create outside there, that I have been the initiator of the fall of the government when I was for a short period a member of parliament. You know, it's very good for us to recall that, because people wanted to do that to try to, of course, damage my reputation.
Yes.
Because especially now people are feeling that we need serious people with good morals and principles and vision and leadership for the country. And of course they will come and say, yeah, but Dr. Marcelina was the man that threw down the government when he was in Parliament. It is absolutely not true, and every time I get the opportunity to discuss that, I want to explain to the people of Sint Maarten once more that you have to recall the day that happened. Mr. Meyer stood up in Parliament and he said, standing up in Parliament, that he is going to retract his support from the current government at that time. Okay, so we were then in a government in a coalition of 8 members of Parliament, 1 of the Sint Maarten Christian Party and 7 from the United Democrats. And in that time, Mr. Meyer stood up and retracted his support, and then the figure 8, being 8 members of Parliament, became 7 members of Parliament, not being anymore the majority to carry a government. And at that particular moment, the government of Sint Maarten fell.
Yes.
It had nothing to do with Dr. Messalina. There was also a second statement that we made. They recalled that there was a confrontation between me and the Minister of Health in that time, in which I disagreed to build the hospital with the financing that were available at that particular moment to build the hospital. And I disagreed completely, because I truly believe that we should not use pension fund money from the asset fee that is already in a critical state to build a hospital with. I want a hospital. Who would not like a hospital? Dr. Messalina works in a hospital. His profession is a surgeon working in a hospital, knowing the condition of our hospital. Of course, Dr. Messalina wants a new hospital, but it should not be in a way that we are going to ruin the finance of the country. We are going to misuse funds from the pensioners, from the pension fund, from the asset fee, just to tell the people outside there we have a hospital. And at the end of the day, when people become 65 years, they want their pension, and then all of a sudden the pension fund had to tell them, sorry, we do not have the money to pay you. We used that money in that time to build some walls for the hospital, and I did not want that to happen. Secondly, there was a second thing that I objected. I did not want the hospital to be built in that congested corner there by Cahill. So I had to do what I had to do. I wanted to stop that direction of construction in that corner of the hospital, because I really believe that's not the place to build such a huge building representing a national project for Country Sint Maarten. There are other places to build this hospital, and I disagreed with throwing down the building that we have now, because I find it such a Caribbean beautiful building that we could have used. For example, I had in my head to make there, to establish there a youth city, a after-school youth activity, being sports, guiding the students, the kids who were doing their homework. I had a whole idea how I would organize that Sint Maarten Medical Center building to accommodate the youth after the school, connect that building to, for example, the sport activities that we have by the Raoul Illich. Those plans were too beautiful, too nice to be true, and of course political agendas, personal agendas took over, and that was the moment that I disagreed completely with the then Minister of Health, and then a motion of distrust was presented. But anyway, I'm very glad that you recall that, because people still want to say that Dr. Messalina ever threw a government down. That is not the case, because even as you said, and it's correct, it is a beautiful example. You were in that time the minister, the deputy minister plenipotentiary in Den Haag, in the Netherlands, and I was in that coalition with you. Yeah. And if that was true, I cannot imagine that you lost your job, you lost your post in Den Haag, and then today you're sitting with the same gentleman that people try to accuse and give him the cause of throwing government down. That means that today you should have been my enemy, and today you are my partner in my political movement, fighting for my same vision and ambition for our people of our country. Exactly. And I'm so glad that actually I didn't even think about it, Michelle, to talk with you about this topic, but you started in it in your introduction, and it is a beautiful example to show that those that tried to give that impression outside, they are wrong, because if that is the case, how is it possible today
here, right?
that Mrs. Somersall is sitting with Dr. Messalina.
All right.
And I thank you for sharing my vision and my ambition, my morals, my principles, and my dreams of Sint Maarten together with me and with the other candidates and members and board members of the URSM, because we strongly believe, Mr. Somersall, that we are different and that we are going to bring realistic, good solutions for the country to get Sint Maarten back out of this difficult ditch that it is at this particular moment.
Dr. Misa, if I could add something to that, I would just like the radio listeners to know, you as a surgeon, you're doing well for you and your family in life. As a business owner, owning a family business, I am doing well, but we are part of this community, and this is not about us personal gain. For me, it's really about giving back to the community. I've gotten a lot from the community growing up as a child. I mean, I left here when I was 11, but in those 11 years, I've gotten so much, and even coming back home and starting to work, I've even gained more. And it's time, at a certain point in time in life, you realize that you have to give back. And that's why I'm in the race, because I really want to improve this country. All my kids are born here, well, most of my kids are born here, and this is their home, and we have to leave it better for them and for all the kids on the island.
Of course, that is the direction that we have to move on this country. I have good hope, Mr. Somersall, that the people are waking up at this particular moment, that they are realizing that we cannot continue the way we are busy now managing this country, because if we continue this way, we are going to lose our country on all fields. We're going to lose it on level of healthcare, we're going to lose it on the level of education, level of housing, we're going to lose the general welfare possibilities to offer our country, our economy is going to go backward, our justice system is going to become an unstable system, and if we continue abusing of our environment, we are going to lose a sound natural balance for humankind to live in.
Yes.
So the URSM is realizing all that, and we are busy working on our manifesto that actually we have already made known our bullet points, what we are going to do in our manifesto for the upcoming elections. So, Mr. Somersall, there is a lot waiting for the URSM. We are only now relying on the mandate of the people of Sint Maarten, and hopefully the people will understand. I do believe and I feel that the people are waking up and saying, no, we have to make a change for this country. And this change is coming in January. If you like it or not, I'm telling you as leader of the URSM that the people are going to surprise the expectations with the outcome of the upcoming elections.
Yeah, we need a drastic change if we want to change the course. And January
will tell where we are standing with this country.
Exactly.
Hopefully the URSM will get a great percentage of the mandate of the people of this country from the electorate, and with that we will be part of the upcoming government, hopefully giving new hope, trust and direction to this country.
And like you mentioned, that's another reason why joining the party was easy, because it's the team. We have a team of professionals in place, and we have all our committees in place for the different topics, healthcare, social, youth care, and everything.
Education.
And we are busy working already, even before being in there. We are working on possible outcomes to deal with the situations.
Of course.
And that is something that speaks to me, because it's better for me. I love to be proactive, and our party is a proactive party.
Yep.
And we are already putting things in place so that when that day comes and we receive the mandate, we don't have to start thinking about how we're going to get things done, but we are done in a motion for getting things done for the people.
Of course. Mr. Somersall, we would like to hit the floor, the ground running at the moment that we get the mandate of the people of Sint Maarten. I assume that you have your ideas to what you would like to pay good attention to once we are in government. Would you like to give some elucidation on a few things that you thought about?
Yes, well, things that is close to my heart, Doc, is definitely the situation with our elders, the seniors. It's hard to see them in this situation still struggling. When you hear that they're seniors out there that is receiving a pension of 293 guilders. It just breaks my heart because we all know that no one can survive on that.
Yep.
So that really speaks to me. Another thing that really touches me is the homeless, and not necessarily only those that we see on the side of the road, but also people who have been displaced from Irma or from COVID, who lost their jobs, so eventually they lost their homes. They too need somewhere to call home again. The sports, the youth, when it comes to education, for me especially, special needs education is critical. And then the afternoon sport programs like you mentioned. I'm a soccer coach, so I'm right in there with the kids. Yesterday we had a wonderful practice. But you do hear their concerns and needs, and they do need that attention to let people know that we care about them, that we're willing to invest in them, even if it's just time, to give them that little pep talk that they need. There's so much going on in our community, Doctor, that I'm happy that we have a broad-based team that we could tackle different issues with the expertise that we all have in-house.
Yeah, but Michel, of course, the way you say it is correct, that these are the topics that we will have to pay attention to directly once we are in government. And as you said, this country has so many challenges on all fields that, of course, it's going to be, of course, a big challenge for the URSM to start to straighten up things for the people, but we are not scared to assume our responsibility, and we will do what we have to do to improve actually the livelihood of the people of this country.
Yes.
Michel, time is running on us. We are going to take a small break, and in the second half of our radio program, You Are Sint Maarten, we are going to talk a little about visions that we have, about topics that we think should get good attention once we are in government as of February next year, 2024, if elections are in January. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a small break and we will be back in a few minutes. Dear people of Sint Maarten, welcome to the second half of our radio program, You Are Sint Maarten, on Radio Mix 94.7 FM. As I mentioned in the first half of our radio program, today we have with us as a invité Mr. Michel Somersall. Mr. Michel Somersall is a known citizen in our country. He has represented us in the Netherlands as Deputy Minister Plenipotentiary in Den Haag. And he is back here on the island as a businessman, doing a lot for the youth on sport level too. And of course, because of his big love for his country, he decided also to contest the upcoming parliamentary elections on the slate of the URSM. And coincidentally today, in the newspaper, he announced that he will officially contest the elections, and he gave a small explanation about his motivation. And of course, as leader of the URSM, I'm very proud and honored to have a gentleman like Mr. Michel Somersall with us here on our party slate and also in our radio program, You Are Sint Maarten. Michel,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Michel, today you are in the newspaper,
Yes.
but in this same newspaper today, on I think even if I'm not mistaken, the front page, there was some article concerning a very worrisome development in our country, being the fighting, bullying behavior of the youth of the school-going kids of Sint Maarten. And I'm very, very concerned about this development. And recently also we had the loss of a great soul in our community. By the way, once more I express my condolences to the family, to the mother, to the friends of this nice God's creation soul that we lost. And all has its reasons, but of course we have to try in our community to get a behavior that we respect individuals, that we stop bullying each other, and also on school level. And if I see, for example, the video clips of the recording of fights that took place this week, I think, in St. Peter's, I think that took place, I think, guys, what are we doing in this country? So I don't know if you can give us some incentives about what your feelings are about this behavior of these kids that go to school and instead of learning something, being positive in contribution to the youth section of Sint Maarten, they are going to school to fight with each other and bully each other. I find it a crazy development. What do you think about it, Michel?
Well, it's once again, this is heartbreaking to see this happening. It's nothing new. As a father, of course, I'm concerned. You have kids going to school, and these fights are breaking out, and they're being cheered on from the sidelines with videos and everything. In 2020, I know an article came out where they say we had 36 fights in 38 days. Crazy. Yeah. Beginning of the year, we talk about having 11 school-related fights, in January. Just after the Christmas break, and we've noticed that the fights occur just after the vacation time. Committees have been put in place, and one of the social workers say, it's unfortunate that when the fights is occurring, we put a committee in place, but as soon as the fights are done, the committee fall apart. Yep. And I think that's such a statement on point, but also such a worrisome statement, because we should have something structural in place to combat these fights. I can remember in 2019, when we were part of government, Minister Smith, you could say he lived in Parliament when these was going on. Parliament wanted to know from him almost on a daily basis what he was going to do to prevent this from happening. We've seen reports come out, and I'm not picking on anybody, but with this administration, I haven't seen the minister in Parliament wants to answer questions about what is going to be done to prevent this from happening.
And where is the Minister of Education that we have now? Where is he standing in his vision, his policies? What are the action plans to try to prevent this to happen in our community? Yeah. We just read about it in the newspaper, but I do not have the feeling that on official levels people are really concerned.
It's not a priority.
And not a priority. I mean, if this is not a priority, what is then a priority in our country? But okay.
Over time, Doc, we have created a monster, because instead of distributing the schools throughout the districts, that Colby have their own primary schools and maybe a high school over there, and Phillipsburg and Dutch Quarter, what we do, we put all the schools in the same district. And we have all the children from all over the country coming to the same neighborhood. What's going to happen when you have a big crowd grouped together? Likely these are the things that will happen. They will act out. Yep. And moving forward, I definitely think that is something that we have to look at. We need high schools and schools in each district.
Yep. I would like to make use of this opportunity also to give the parents also a responsibility in controlling the behavior, the aggressive behavior, the bullying behavior of the school-going youth, because the parents are very, very important in guiding the children, in educating them, in giving them the correct morals and values and principles as a humankind. So I do also have a request to the parents for please to assume your responsibility. Realize that the future of your children is actually in your hands. You are the one actually crystallizing the morals, the principles, the values of life that you think the next generation should have to proceed in life with. And if we just think that the school only is going to do it for the kids, forget it, we are going to lose this battle. It starts at home by the parents.
Yes.
And the parents also have to assume their responsibility in constantly being in constant good relationship, in good communication and contact with their kids, and also constantly try to educate them, as we say, massage them in a way that at the end of the day they're going to become good citizens for our society.
Fully agree. With that too, I think while the parents is busy with that, we're talking a lot about after-school programs.
Yep.
We've seen that also all the schools are finishing at the same time, so you have all the kids coming out of school at the same time instead of stagnating them. Just a little thing, when it was with COVID, we had different times eventually by MPC. Some went to school in the morning, some was in the afternoon. Less traffic on the road at the time, but also we had less fighting and trouble going on because I guess the group wasn't, as it is and so concentrated as it is now. Afternoons programs, I think, can help because I'm going to say it helped me as a youth growing up here on the island. Baseball was my thing. We played baseball every day. But I must say thank you to the coaches and those that was over that organization, like Mr. Bacco, Mr. File was there, Mr. Jacobus, Major Brown, Mr. Porchop. Those are guys that we look up to and that really guide us as youths through sports, but also learned us so much of principles and norms and values, that today I can look back and find strength in those experiences for the decisions that I am making today.
Yes.
And these are one of the reasons why I try to give back through sports,
Yep.
because it helped me so much. And if I could be a listening ear for someone else's kid, I play a small part that can, improve their life as well.
Yes, we have to do what we have to do, Michel. By talking alone about it, it's give others ideas, of course, how we have to move forward. But I think by taking the decision, as you took, to be part actively in a political movement, a political party as the URSM, there's really an opportunity with the support of the voters that you can get in, occupy a parliamentary chair, and also do what has to be done for this country. So I hope that we from the URSM will get that opportunity to be in government in the upcoming government period. And in that way we will actively bring solutions for the challenging and long-term solutions too, because at the end of the day it's about the resiliency that we can create in our community.
Exactly.
By saying that, of course, Michel, we are also thinking about how and what type of future we want for country Sint Maarten. And we were, for example, in past weekend, we have been in the Dutch Quarter community. We calling it a walk through the community to see if we can get in touch with the people of that neighborhood to discuss, listen to their issues, their problems, their challenges. And in that way, for us to realize better what is keeping the citizens of this country, and in this particular case, those of Dutch Quarter busy. We had a very, very successful walk through the neighborhood past weekend. We did it on the Saturday and past Sunday. We started Saturday approximately 3:30. For Sunday it was the same. And actually we stayed there till 6:30 at night, walking around, talking with people. And Michel, I have to tell you that seeing the difficult phase that the citizens of Dutch Quarter are going through, and realizing how positively surprised they were to see our faces walking around, giving them an ear for them to speak and express their concerns and worries and their challenges, and realizing how good and they treated us and how welcome we were in that weekend. I was so positively surprised and impressed with how they treated us, how welcome we were. And I thought to myself, I really believe that the people of Sint Maarten are welcoming now a new group of people, new political party, new political color and vision to take over this country for a better tomorrow. I think you had the same experience,
Yes,
Michel.
same experience. The conversations was truthful and real. One gentleman, he was passing each other and he stopped, and he said, what he loved and what he's looking forward to is open, candid conversations. He said, don't come with no promises.
No.
The thing with our walk is getting to know, being the listening ear to find out what's going on. So we're not coming promising anything. And I think that made the difference while we was walking through Dutch Quarter.
Yeah, once you walk through these neighborhoods, it's a direct contact with the people. Yeah. They bring you very close to the problem. You can see it with your own eyes. Yes. You can feel it. You can experience the problem. And in that way, we from the URSM believe that is a good way for you to get familiarized with the problems of that community. For the moment that you are in government, after election, for you to do really what you think is important for a good development of a society, community, like, for example, the Dutch Quarter Society.
And Doctor, very often the people themselves have very good ideas and solutions. If we're willing to listen and gather that information, we could come up with real plausible solutions for the issues.
And being pragmatic too, eh?
Yeah.
Just take decisions, bring tangible solutions to the society for the people really to see that there is there a government that is really, really interested in trying to help the people of this country. Another thing, Michelle, that we are doing is we are working on our manifesto. And of course, we made some bullet points of our manifesto. And the bullet points are covering several areas. It covers the area of healthcare, of housing, economy sector, education, general welfare for the people of Sint Maarten, justice, and the area of environment. For example, if you touch base on the topic of housing, I do believe there is an extreme necessity for good housing in country Sint Maarten. I think there's about 6,000 to 7,000 families now in Sint Maarten on a waiting list, waiting for proper housing. And if you realize that 7,000 people is a lot of people. So we will have to tackle seriously our housing issues for country Sint Maarten. Considering that, we have also had some proposals in our mandate bullet point edition, how we think we can do that by expanding the social housing capacity. For example, the one in Belvedere, set up, the idea is good, but we should have more projects that is going to alleviate the housing necessity in this country. We also spoke about the rent-to-own housing projects. That means that you're going to start renting a house in the beginning, like for example Belvedere, but after 15 years
you own it.
You have to own it because you cannot continue paying rent your whole life. And afterward, when you die, the kids have nothing. They have to start again with paying rent. And when they die again, and at the end of the day, 3-4 generations has paid for that house, and at the end of the day,
you still don't own anything.
The people don't
still
own
don't
anything.
Have no collateral to move on, open a business, or do anything.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why we believe in this concept of to rent to own. So at the end of the day, people, after paying 15, 20 years of rent, they can become the owner of a property. And by saying that, of course, once you're an owner of a property, you have assets. You can do something. You can go to the bank and tell the bank, listen, I want to start a small business. I want to use my house as a collateral. Exactly. And from the one comes the other. And at a certain moment, you're rolling and doing your thing, not only improving your financial situation, but actually the one of the country also. Yeah. We have to work also on affordable housing for the middle class of Sint Maarten, because I really believe that we should accommodate everybody that wants to come live in our house and in Sint Maarten, and we have to do our best to accommodate people, for everybody to have a roof on top of their head.
Doctor, with the housing, it's very important that when we build projects, that we build mixed projects.
Yes.
And you just don't have one group or one criteria of people living together, but you mix it.
Yep.
And I think that will be key for the success of any project or community that we set up in the future when it comes to housing. Another thing is, the first thing you hear that government don't have land. Just a few days ago, we heard about the court case. I think if government get back that land, that should go into one of these housing projects instead of just giving it out to a few. Make a good project from it. Another thing I would propose that definitely to work on, that is, if anybody is going to have their land for sale, that government be the first choice or have first option to buy. Because only that way we can get back land so that we can work on these housing projects.
Yes, and serve the people with the projects that we built on them.
If government don't want it, then you sell it to somebody else.
Of course, that's a good way to
acquire land.
Try to get some land back, to build things on it that will serve the general interest of the country. In our bullet point folder that we made, that is representing the manifesto of our political movement. We also spoke about the justice, what are we all envisioning for the justice for our country. And of course, we would like to see the construction of that new detention center at Point Blanche for country Sint Maarten. We are thinking about all types of formulas to see what we're going to do with those living in that building, for them to be safe and stay safe while we are busy constructing parts of that prison to actually serve in a way that everybody can, once they have been sentenced, for them to just sit their time out. Unfortunately, that's the case, but we have to make sure that we adhere to the human rights too. And that is at this particular moment not always the case. Another thing with justice too that we would like to do, Michelle, is customize the immigration policies towards the labor necessities. And very often you see that we really need a person that we cannot find here on the island, but the system obliges us constantly to continue looking for the person that we're looking for, while we know in advance already that we're not going to find that person. So you can do either two things. You're going to say, no, I don't have that person, so we cannot open that business. Or you're going to say, okay, if I have an immigration policy that fits a little the labor necessities of the country, it's going to, of course, help on both sides. It's going to become a win-win situation for everybody, the one that wants to come here to Sint Maarten to live and contribute. And on the other side, for example, if you want a sushi chef, it's great if you can have somebody that is very knowledgeable in this to help you with your restaurant, because that sushi chef until now will not be here in Sint Maarten to pick and choose, because it's very difficult to get a sushi chef here in our society. So I think we should stop having the illusion that we will find that sushi chef here in Sint Maarten, and just do what has to be done for us to get the right people to help us on our labor market to help continue developing this country.
And you mentioned a win-win, Doc, and it's while you bring in that sushi chef here, he will be sharing his knowledge with our chefs here.
And then we learn from him.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, and of course, at the end of the day, we will have our own people educated that can continue with their expertise to help in all type of business sectors that we think we need to give prosperity to this country. With the justice vision that we have, we also have our ideas about constructing a new police station. While we're going to use, that is my dream, to use that building to accommodate a police academy for country Sint Maarten. I think that if you have a country, you should have a police academy where you can form your own police servants, actually, to help your community. And I think this station will be a nice place to accommodate our police academy for country Sint Maarten, and then relocate, of course, a new police headquarter station for country Sint Maarten. These are, of course, big aspirations, big dreams, but we have to start somewhere. And of course, we will not be able to start with all big projects one time in the beginning, but gradually going through the 4 governing years, we will be able to do something, to realize some big projects that will make a difference for country Sint Maarten on the long term. Michel, we had a great conversation today with each other. Time is, of course, running. Time is too short for everything that we would like to share with the people outside there. Michel, before we come to the ending of our program, I would like to give you the floor before we finalize today.
All right. I would love to, thank you, Doc, once again for having me. Thank you, radio listeners, for tuning in.
Yep.
I am here because I really want to serve my country. I've served the country before as a public health inspector, the Chief Food Safety Public Health Inspector. People know me from then. They know my standards. They know I don't play around when it comes to work, but always respectful when I'm doing my job. I served the people of Sint Maarten in the capacity of Deputy Minister Plenipotentiary in Den Haag, learned a lot, walked the floors of Parliament there, so I know how a Parliament can work to improve the lives of the people. I know how quickly you can get things done if you're focused and you really want to get it done. And that's the experience that I want to bring now to the floor of Parliament here in Sint Maarten. I am running because I care about my country. This is my home. I love this place. There's nowhere else for me to go. But I want to see it. I want to see people flourish. I just like to see people doing well in life. And I think if people doing well and they have enough in their pocket and they can take care of their families, that St. Maarten could be a better place. And I really want to put the sweet back in old sweet St. Maarten land, because a lot of people don't have that sweet no more.
Yes, we're losing the sweetness.
Yeah, we're losing the sweetness, and
yes,
I want to help put the sweet back in old sweet St. Maarten land.
Okay, so my sweet people, let's follow the words of Mr. Somersall. Let's do the right thing coming January, election time. Let's choose a group of people with a good heart, with a good intention, to change this country, to make it a better place for all of us. Michel, thank you once more for taking your time out to be with us in this program.
It's a pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you also for being with us in this weekly radio program. And of course, I'm looking forward to have you next week, Wednesday, from 6 to 7 again in our radio program, You Are Sint Maarten, on Radio Mix 94.7 FM. I wish you a pleasant evening. Good night.